Welcome to another edition of the GrAE Area. I'm Isaiah Rhodes. I'm with Frank Tier, and we are here with a very special guest, HG. He is
Yo,
the owner, creative artist of Masterclass NYC, the executive, all these different titles you could throw so much under his name and his team. But during times like this, especially with the death of George Floyd and so many others at the hands of police, there's been an uprising, and we are seeing a unification at the highest level in ways that we haven't seen in years. Um, and we've had multiple discussions about this, but I want to have this discussion today because so many influencers, I don't want to just say famous people, but so many influencers are being caught in the crossfire of saying some damaging comments or being caught out there. And now, during this climate of cancel culture, I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on where you guys believe the line should be drawn in terms of entertainment or just people of the highest level, and how they can be effective or detrimental to a cause of this magnitude. So before I get started, I want to get your thoughts, AG. Then we'll just go around.
I feel like right now, it's a tough, it's tough to even be a creative right now because, cancel culture is crazy. So you really have to watch what you say, and the whole point of being a creative is to be free with what you say, no matter if it offends somebody or if it doesn't. You should just supposed to tell the truth when it comes to creating your art. So I feel like, I don't know. I think everything that as a creative, just throw everything out there, man. It's supposed to, spark conversation and, spark progression and whatever it is that's going on. So I don't really feel like it could damage anything more so than I would rather you speak up when you have something productive to say than just speak out and say anything, But if you're creative, I feel like you should just throw your art out there and spark that conversation with whoever, just to continue the conversation.
Ray, what do you think?
Um, yeah, I'm looking at it from a few different angles. I think before we spoke about how prior to social, someone may have an idea in their head, probably ain't the best, but you can succeed on it, right? Like you won't say it right away. Now something happened, you go on your gram or you go on Twitter and you write it straight out, right? And now the world sees it, right? So it's really hard. So I do think that yes, while you want folks to be their most authentic self, I think that the social media era gives people, and I mean, the ability to sit on certain things and read the room first, right? So you can see what the overall backlash is, right? And if you do have an opinion that runs contrary to that, one, you could probably look to get more educated on that. Also, and I mean, gauge your response towards it, right? Because we've seen time and time again that people have had weeks of comments, and when they spoke, they said something ill-advised, and it's cost them. I mean, and I guess time will show how much it's cost them. I think you really have to be careful, especially if you are someone really opinionated who has opinions contrary, to what people want to believe or what they want to hear at the moment.
Now, most recently, obviously, with the death of George Floyd and as I mentioned, the uprising, you've had multiple entertainers, like whether it be Desi Banks, B. Simone. Uh, you could talk to in the sports lane, Drew Brees yesterday. Uh, he had some comments come out from Yahoo Finance in which he was initially being asked about what would he think, what would his response be to potential kneeling in support of in support of George Floyd and the recent killings, and protesting police brutality, very similar to what happened in 2016 and 17 for Colin Kaepernick's standing up to police brutality. And he had some very staunch and strong comments in regards to disrespecting the flag, and he really turned it inward. I mentioned Desi Banks. He posted a meme uh, a day after the riot started, and he kind of went against what was happening outside on the street, and many people turned on him. Do you think that I want to point to what you said, Frank, and then I'm gonna tie it into what you said, H, in terms of you said you have an opportunity to gauge the room, and if you feel something, you gotta kind of see where the momentum is, and then what you said, H, in terms of as a creative, obviously you feel from an art perspective you can put it out there, but once you have a voice, it's very difficult to separate art from conviction and uh, and conscience sometimes. So just Frank, what do you think about that in terms of gauging the room, and then as a person of influence, how do you separate both?
Yeah, so I mean, should I speak about specific? Like, let's just speak about probably Drew Brees or what was that?
Well, let's go to Drew Brees first because his is the most recent.
Man, that I think that was crazy. First off, right, as a celeb, you have to read when you're being baited, right?
Right.
And he was clearly baited, right? Which I'm not even off the hook. I mean, because as you saw, I got him a few times on social media. I had right. Because there's so many. I have so many issues with what he said. So one, he was baited, right? But two, Drew Brees. I mean, this is a staunch Republican. This is someone who has two grandfathers who both served in the armed forces in World War II. This is someone who's I love the flag until the day I die. And I mean, even when I'm dead, I still pledge, right? So it's just someone who's shown the ability to not look outward and was very me, my ideals, my morals. So when he was asked that question, I think what really took it over top of me was saying, I never respect someone. I'm like, respect someone. I'm like, this is not a respect disrespecting. Because that's just, I mean, 4 years after Colin telling you that it's not about the flag, right? It's more than that. Also, my issue is people not understand that because the flag is sacred for you, it doesn't have to be sacred for me, especially when I'm in a country that's rooted on that flag never living up to its ideals of people who look like me, right? So that was my biggest issue with it. I'm like, as much as you can say, I mean, you have everything you want. I mean, like, dad was really important. Mom was an attorney. Grandfolks fought in World War II. He's been given everything that you can ask for, right? He's been in a locker room with players, I mean, who've been through hardship, single parents home, people who've been in poor neighborhoods, who've been affected by mass incarceration. Like, I don't think it's that much to ask for you to say that, I mean, hey, I know you haven't experienced what I experienced, but understand that my experience is different. So I just think for him to like take all of that, see the last 4 years unfold, and then see the last 2 weeks unfold, and still say that was just a bit, I mean, was indicative of who he truly is. And I think that's why the backlash came the way it did. And I have some words with him about like World War II, right? Because I was like, you know, Black people served in World War II, right? But oftentimes they were treated worse than German prisoners of war, right? Like they ate after them, they sat behind them. They came home and their GI Bill, they were denied of it, so they couldn't build wealth, right? So I'm just like, yo, if even your proudest moments, right, are alluded in shame for other people, right? Like Black veterans aren't as decorated or celebrated like your two grandfathers were, right? And it's a reason for that. So I just think that at every turn of the way, there's never been a moment where someone can say, I'm so proud of this moment, but that moment as a whole is going to be proud of. Like, yeah, like World War II, I mean, war veterans, we celebrated, right? But the Black folks who came back home to discrimination, right? They came back home to segregation. They came back home, I mean, to years later, mass incarceration. So, yeah, imagine fighting for a country, almost dying for a country that doesn't respect you. So it's just, I'm like, that was a moment for him to take all of that. And I know it's a lot to think about, but I'm like, yo, the word, I don't respect someone who's like this with the flag. Like, whoa, like where that came from. Like, if there were any time for you to see what Congress was kneeling for now would be it, right? And he just completely missed the moment. Then came out with an apology 2 days later that just like, nah, bro. I mean, too little, too late. So.
Yeah, like that's my thing. Like, you know that meme where it's like, this is the point, and then he missed it by like this much. I'm like, that's the whole thing. It's like he could have just said, yo, I'm proud of whatever, but I sympathize with with the people because I've been around Black people. I've been around all type of, so I sympathize. And plus, Colin was always saying it wasn't about disrespecting the flag. It was about standing up for police brutality. So that whole, I feel like he just missed the whole point of the thing. But to your question about separating conviction from art from conviction when you have a platform, I feel like, you can always sympathize with people, you know, use your platform to make it relatable. Like if you believe in something, you can also use your platform to make it relatable to other people and also give them an opportunity to educate, because I feel like also with Drew Brees, it's like now people are educating him on what's wrong with that comment and what's really going on, you know. Like people calling him a sucker, that's cool, but educate that man too. Don't just bash him and then, because it's crazy, you know. I feel like he need to just get educated on what's going on more so that he understands like his platform and how what he says affects other people, especially when he's from the other side. Like right now is not time to be saying that type of shit, especially if you're from that side, you know.
But here's a question that I have, especially with a person like Drew Brees. We and like before I get into that, I just want to say this too. Why is it that just because somebody is famous, everybody needs them to be a voice? An example being Kanye West or Lil Wayne, right? Most recently, I saw a tweet from Ebro in the morning. He said, "And where is Kanye West? Why isn't he speaking?" Right? And my thing is this: while Kanye West is an extremely influential person, we've seen at times, sometimes he doesn't know how to articulate his feelings in the best way, and sometimes that might have gotten in his own way. And as a person, knowing that, why do you feel you need him to speak up? Now, it came out that Kanye in private, which is ultimately respectable on my part, I respect this. He privately donated to Ahmaud Arbery and he gave up to $2 million to the family. So I respect that at the highest level, because he understood maybe this is not my space to be detrimental to the cause. I would rather contribute in my own way. Why do people feel the need for somebody to speak for them in that way?
Yeah, Frank. I mean,
I was gonna go to H first because.
Go H. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I feel because of that, like you have a lot of eyes on you, a lot of eyeballs on you, and you know what you say. Maybe for us is like that's just another person, but there's kids and there's millions and millions and millions of people that just look for. Like for me, for example, like I had not a problem, but you know, LeBron, like he was coming out saying why America hate us and all of this. And I was like, yo, I'm not the person to tell you how to use your platform, but you know, there's millions of kids in America that's looking at what he just said, and they start to think like, man, like, you know, with that mentality, like, I'm scared because LeBron tweeted something like, oh, I'm scared. But that's for me. I look at those people more so for their platform of action. Like, yo, we need to do this. We need to mobilize. Like if Kanye West tweets, yo, Louis store, we burning that shit down, you're going to have 1,000 kids that used to wear Louis in front of the Louis store burning it down, you know? So I feel like I look towards those people who just use your platform for action and because his influence is vast. Like same thing with LeBron, same thing with Drew Brees and all these people, is because they have massed those millions of people that just look to them for whatever. Like when LeBron says, this is for Kobe, 1,000 people on the timeline retweet, this is for Kobe, this is for Kobe, you know what I'm saying? And so when you have that type of platform and that type of influence, I don't know, it's just crazy it's people actually believe what you say, you know what I'm saying? They actually like, yo, he said it, so it's law. It doesn't matter who else says it, he said it, I believe it. Like I used to be the biggest Kanye fan. I'm like, yo, if he tell me wear skinnies tomorrow, I'm wearing skinnies because I'm looking at him like he's the coolest person in the world, you know? So once he started doing the other shit, I'm like, nah, now I understand, like, you know, differentiate the man from whatever it is that he's saying, because, yo, I don't agree with it. But before, when it's millions of kids that have that mindset, like, yo, whatever he says, I believe it because he said it, you know? He's backing it up. He's living exactly what he's saying. You see him balling. Everybody wants that lifestyle. So whatever he says, in order to, you know, relate to that, people is going to believe it. So I feel like when people are influential like that, just because just people would just believe it.
Mm.
I don't understand it. Like literally, because I had this conversation, not to prolong it, but I had this conversation with Z one time, and I couldn't believe like people believe what Future said about taking codeine and taking all these. And I'm like, how do people really believe like this dude is taking? And he came out and said he don't even take codeine. So I'm like, what's going on with it? His son wasn't clicking. So once people start separating that, I feel like they can make their own decision. But those are the people they look to influence their decision making. If that makes any sense, you know?
No, I got you.
Yeah, I think you spoke about the power of words of people who are perceived to be powerful. Well, right. I think that's a flaw on our end, right? That we look for folks who we call heroes in one field, right, to be heroes all around, right? So because like this person treat like they made it out of impoverished conditions, they went to school, and I mean they made it in the rap game to the top, they made it as an athlete. We want to use their template and we take everything they say about everything as gold, right? And that is the case. And also, so I have no idea why you'd ask Lil Wayne about anything, I mean, black related. He's just showing you that it's not his field, right? And that's okay. I mean, like his ignorance is not okay, but it's okay if you don't want to let me speak on anything. Everybody is versed in everything, right? And I think it's cool to say, hey,
I'm not educated on that.
I'm a great rapper, and I mean, I'm great at words. I'm fly, but I don't particularly know, I mean, how to speak about these things, right? But I think artists also get caught into the fact, well, I made it this far, I'm so big, it must be because I'm doing something right. I know this, so I think they also get caught in believing their own hype, right, and thinking that they're experts on things that they aren't, and that's what happened to Trina, right? I'm gonna show you my page. You saw that. I mean, what about this is people have shown that they can be immensely strong and wrong, right? It's like having these these ideas that really aren't rooted in facts, but you believe it so wholeheartedly, and you go to the depth with it, when in fact, I mean, they're just incorrect. And Trina just said a whole bunch of, I mean, I think that may be the worst thing I've seen so far through all this, right? I mean, the Shamik Moore thing was weird, I mean, but it was a series of tweets. But Trina, I mean, went on for like 4 or 5 minutes on a call, and I mean, or on a radio interview, and it's like it was filterless, right? She got to say it into her head, and then just when you look, it wasn't much there, or at least what was there shouldn't have been there. So it was.
And
just
I think to your point about Trina, what made it so bad was that Trick Daddy was trying to save her. He was trying to give her a perspective and understanding to, while you may feel this way and you have money, there are people who have been pent up and have frustration that are built up. He tried to explain it to her in ways she might understand, and she was still, even in that moment, ultimately defiant. So that's to your point, Frank.
But that goes back to my point I feel like people shouldn't put pressure on these people to speak up, and more so speak up when they have something productive to say. Because like if you speak just because somebody's putting pressure on you to say something, you're not always gonna say the right things, or you're not always gonna, you know what I'm saying? So I'd rather Trina step back, assess it and speak up when you have something productive to say. Same thing with B Simone, and same thing with Desi, especially when they benefit off of the fuck shit. Like Desi always doing skits like, oh, this is what
like his platform is built on being ghetto and just that environment that he's speaking against, right? 100%.
Exactly. So you have those people that actually do those things, and now it's all this thing going on. So now it's this opportunity to, if that's what you're really about. Because now people are saying, oh, nah, he's not with the hood shit. If he's talking about people looting and this is that, now he's a square to those people.
Right.
And the same thing with B Simone. It's like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. And when you speak up, now you a child of God and this and that. But your fans don't believe that because you've been promoting all of this other shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's just speak up when they assess the situation. Because now, and a lot of eyes and a lot of people are paying attention that are not her fans, and they just see this person that has this influence and platform, and they saying stupid shit. So it's a whole thing, man.
So you mentioned earlier about just getting more educated. Do you feel that, say somebody does make missteps during this time publicly, do you feel like as a collective, us as a people, that we can accept someone once they make those mistakes? Can they come back?
If they're genuine,
Like Desi, as soon as he made his mistake and everybody, like, he lost like 500,000 followers on Twitter in one day. He felt the backlash. He came back on. He apologized, and he stripped down his persona in a way to let people know, while I did make that mistake, I did speak to my elders, and they let me know where I was wrong and where I misstepped. But do you feel like it's a way to recover from that when you're so flagrantly wrong in this particular time?
I feel like if you genuinely that person, and you don't want, like a person like Desi, for example, or like if you're genuinely that person and you get educated on what's going on and you see like how you're wrong, and then you're consistent on improving from seeing what you were wrong about, I feel like, yeah, there's an opportunity to come back. But like a person like Drew Brees that drops a PR apology, it's like, nah, you're not genuine. Like, you still believe what you believe in. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you have to see who's genuine and who's not, and assess them like that. Like, that's how I do it. Like, if one of my favorite artists mess up and they see that they wrong and they genuinely and consistently prove that, yo, I messed up right here, but, you know, this person, I had a conversation with people and they told me my missteps and that I'm genuinely, you know, changing, then I'll give them another chance. But some people is this, you can tell, like, yo, nah, they set on this. My grandfather's this the flag, and I don't care what nobody say. But since I have an image, let me put out this PR thing to fan, you know, put the fire out a little bit. But you could tell it's not genuine. It's not.
Yeah, well said, H. I think that I was gonna say it does depend on what the subject is, right? I think, but I was wondering like what redemption looks like. I think it's a lot harder to redeem yourself when your statements were so, staunch against an issue like this, right? Where people don't think it's black and white. People think it's one's right side and it's a wrong side, right? So I think there's some issues that are like, touchy, but I think an issue like this where folks are being murdered for the color of the skin, if you don't get that, then I think people are more likely to cast you out for good, right? So I think redemption is possible. I think it's extremely hard, but I do think it degrees on the magnitude of the situation. And race relations in the U.S. is something that's a tough topic where you could be finished forever for, right? Like it's like a white person who says something crazy right now is not being forgiven for it. They're just not. So it's tough, right? So Drew Brees is who Drew Brees is. Right. And no apology. He could donate $10 million to Black Lives Matter. If people just gonna see him as Drew Brees, the guy who said Collins was respecting the flag, still after 4 years, right? So, but hey, Debbie Banks and stuff. I think there's wiggle room, right? I think you can show growth, right? Don't know if he ever gets his half a million K followers back, but I think that H said it well. Consistency, to prove and continue change, right? Proving that I was done. I'm done with that helps. For redemption, I don't know, but it definitely does help the cause, right? But somebody like a Drew Brees, that's finished, right? And I don't know. Did Trina apologize? Because
I didn't even see that.
A clip came out and she apologized. I think a lot of people, what really got a lot of people were the fact that she called people that loot and call them animals. And then I think in understanding the backlash, like you're saying, just the PR standpoint, in the moment, Trick Daddy was telling her, this is a little bit too personal for you. I think you need to take your personal animus out of it and understand it from a larger perspective. And she really couldn't. So then today it comes out, she said she never would call black people animals. She said she was speaking more so with everything that was going on outside, not just black people, but the police and different things like that, and other looters as well, not just black people. But I feel like
she fronting
in certain respects, like, I just don't understand how you can live on this earth for so long and not understand where people are coming from. For a person like Drew Brees, who's been in locker rooms his entire life, that means if you play sports, you're going to be around black people. That's just the reality, right? Especially in football. He made it to the highest level of the sport, right? The sport is 75% black almost 80%. If you are amongst black people every day for so long, training together and sacrificing for each other, right? That means you have, when you're on a team, you gotta give of yourself in ways that your family doesn't even understand who you are. So when you do that in pursuit of something, that means we have, and you actually achieve. That means you have an understanding. How can you live your life this long and not understand where your black ally and friend is coming from? I just don't understand how you can miss that mark and live on this earth for over 40 years. Like, how does that happen?
But I feel like also think about the position that he plays, though. You know, that quarterback position, it's a white position, and it's also been like, you're the savior, you're the guy that's supposed to, you know, you're the guy. So, and it's a different world, especially in the NFL, where the owners are white, like everything is white. Like, it's basically like the players are this, and if you're white and you're a quarterback, you're on the other side of whatever goes on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're barely even, you're probably not even around the whole team. You're probably just around your receivers, your offensive line, and that's it. So I feel, and those people, those receivers and the offensive lines are multimillionaires, so the whole conversation changes. Now they're probably not even thinking about injustices. They're probably like, yo, my Bentley got messed up last week. I don't, you know, like the conversations are different. So maybe if he, because the crazy part about Drew Brees is that he plays in New Orleans, which is ill, because it's like, yo, New Orleans is one of the poorest and blackest cities in America.
Highest rate of incarceration, right? It's crazy, right?
It's crazy. Like, I feel like outside this Superdome is a whole zoo, and not in that way, but you know how we call it the zoo because it's wild. It's like, shit is crazy, and Katrina and everything. So for him to not understand that blows my mind, and it just doesn't make any sense but I feel like he's been shielded and guarded in some way to what's going on his whole life, and you know, because he's expressed it. He's like, yo, my grandfather was a veteran, and I grew up in that whole USA, power to the USA type of thing. So he doesn't identify with that. Even if his teammates go through arrests and all of these things, they probably won't even share with him because he's a person that they don't even look at in that light. Like, man, I don't even have to talk to this dude. This is all business, you know? I don't share. I'm not going to share my struggles with this guy because he probably doesn't understand off rip, you know? Yeah. That's how I feel. I feel like he's just been shielded from the whole situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's something a little more, though. I do think it's a thing where he's born into a life of privilege by his skin color and by his wealth. And I mean, like, parents are both in the law field. The mom was a lawyer, but the dad may have been like an attorney.
No, the dad was also in law as well.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, this is someone. So I do think that some of his teammates, as he got older, did probably like share their experiences with him, right? But he's seen life a certain way for so long that it's not believable to him. I mean, like, nah, America can't be that unjust. What do you mean? I mean, this is the country of God. This is democracy. And I mean, so I agree with you. And I mean, he's been shielded, but I think he's been shielded so long that even when those issues did start to come up, like, so what a good thing that Colin did is Colin got the ball, and I mean, got the ball rolling. I think when those comments of race started to come out, I don't think he believed it. He was just like, nah, like, people are over exaggerating. And I think that showed. I mean, to him, it's still about protecting his flag, right? Even though, if we're being serious, right, like, America's democracy and freedom runs on then destabilizing countries around the world, right? So while people are flags, I mean, like, George Bush killed half of like 8,000 Iraqis. You know what I mean? So this is like the freedom that you're bragging about, people have suffered for it. And I mean, South America, the Middle East. So it's just like it's almost impossible for you not to see the other side of the fence unless you really don't want to see it, right? And I think what he said was indicative of someone who was blinded by their privilege, but willfully refuses to see that. I mean, that there's sides to this country, and I mean that ain't so good to look at from somebody else's vantage point. And I think that's ultimately what led to his statements and his pseudo apology. And I mean that people ain't rocking with. I mean, because you had too long to see things the correct way for you to still say that. I mean,
right.
Where we are now in terms of this cosmic shift within not just power brands, but people in general on the street, is not accepting the status quo. I think, to your point, Frank, about the vantage point. So for so long, somebody might be successful and be able to live within the social construct of affluence and success without necessarily having to touch the outskirts. To your point, H, about being in the trenches and seeing what really is. But with the veil being pulled back from people's eyes and them really seeing, do you think that somebody can not necessarily be racist, but how can you explain it? Like, they're not necessarily racist, but because they're raised within a social construct, their lack of knowledge can be ironed out over a specific period of time within and be a positive and have a positive turnaround so quickly. Like in Drew's case, he made a mistake. It might affect his season coming up, but how can he turn that around quickly?
I don't think he can turn around quickly. You know what I mean?
Me neither.
It's so the thing, right? And this is with anything, not just race, right? Even with us as men, right? Like, I think we've been conditioned to believe one thing for so long that it takes a lot of work to undo things, right? So yeah, we're all we're all affected by patriarchy, right? We see things, we probably don't have the strongest opinions, we probably don't have the opinions to have about women, right? So I think it takes a lot of us, reflecting daily, looking inward, and trying to undo some of the things we've been taught, right? But that takes work, it takes a long time, right? And you also have to be willing to do the work. Drew Brees, from age whatever to 41, where he is now, like, hasn't been willing to do that work. So this is something that he's gonna be this way, even if he works towards a change, right? He will be this way for the foreseeable future, right? And he can talk like he isn't, but I just think there's too much work to be like. This is a guy, who's a staunch Republican, a staunch pro-military guy, a staunch Christian. There's just so many layers of his identity that is rooted in white supremacy that is really tough for him to undo that in a matter of days, weeks, months, years, even, right? Like that's that. He is who he is, and he is. I don't want to say he's the worst type, but he has the strongest type of like opinions and beliefs instilled in him to kind of overcome and to work through.
And I don't think he even sees it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he even sees where he went wrong. He just sees the whole backlash, and he's like, man, like, man, let me try to put this fire out as quick as possible. But that's the problem. If you don't see your wrongs, then how can you even correct it? You know?
Both said it's like when you cheat on your girl, and she finds you and you apologize. Are you apologizing because you got caught? You apologizing because you're sincere about it. So in the case of Drew Brees, we don't feel sincere. This is because he got called out so quickly and so viciously. That he apologized. We don't think you actually, see the change. And how could he? It's been 2 days, right? He said what he said.
But it also goes back to your point, why people listen to people with big platforms, because I feel like the people that call them out is very important because they have so much of a large platform. He's able to, right? Because if just a random person or a million people call them out on Twitter, he'll see the million, whatever. But now you got 100 million people just even saying his name in the wrong way.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's gonna change.
LeBron went at him, and A. Rodgers went at him.
And Aaron Rodgers,
like, even my own white, my fellow white guy went at me. So damn, I gotta say something.
Now watch this, right? That's not a coincidence. He did that. You know how I see a competitor make a mistake, I'm definitely going to publicly shift it in such a way where you see I'm on this side, and so you drown it. Let me put your head down a little bit more. But just as you look within the NFL, so many of our brothers, our black and brown brothers, supported Colin in 2016 because they understood. Then there was the faction of people who understood, but they were towing that line. Now, 4 years later, not just the players, but you see executives coming out saying we were wrong, we owe Colin, all within the NFL. And then you still have that power, that small but power percentage, still either willfully defiant or just so ignorant that, and like I was saying, the backlash is shifting. So within the construct of an organization, of an entity like the NFL, where do you see that might change going forward?
I don't know. I don't trust the NFL to. I feel like it's a business, you know. Since they losing so much money because of something they could have solved. Like if they would have kept Cap in the league, let him do his protest, brung Jay-Z anyway, and donated all that money, you know, maybe they would not have been faced. Like, you know how the NBA does it. The NBA is on top of everything.
The NBA is always on the right side of history.
It's all because they deal with the problems as soon as it happens. Like, okay, you want to, it's with the Trayvon and the hoodie, if you guys want to wear hoodies, y'all can wear hoodies. You know what I'm saying? Because it goes with the brand and everything. The NFL, it's just like Drew Brees. They don't see how they wrong in any way. This is a business. This is how we're going to run it. This guy's disrupting our business, so we're going to get him out of here. But they didn't even stop to think, hey, yo, this guy might be on to something. Like, if he's protesting, maybe it's because something is going on, so we should get involved in that. But now I feel like it's all not genuine. It's disingenuous because they're losing so much money, and somebody proved them wrong. Right? Like, you guys are y'all tone deaf. Y'all missing the point. You guys are completely out of range with what's going on, and y'all don't understand it. When I was telling you all along that, yo, something's going on and y'all need to do something about it. Because when I think about Colin Kaepernick, I'm like, even the position that he played, quarterback, it has so many eyeballs that he was able to, you know, let him know, like, this is wrong. So
it's not a coincidence that him in his position did what he did.
Yeah, like, moving forward for me, the NFL, it's not genuine. It's not genuine. They doing it just to look good, just to not lose any more money, not lose any more of their fan base. Because even Jeffrey Lurie, I think the guy from the Eagles, he came out and said, man, like, I understand what he was, but at the time, I guess he wasn't with it. A lot of these owners weren't with it. They was like, listen, this guy's disrupting our business, and we can't have that. So now that the times are shifting, now they're like, oh, shit, like, nah, I have to backtrack. We have to do this. We have to bring Jay-Z in because he's the one that we think could control this group of people into thinking that we're genuine, but it's not genuine. And moving forward, I feel like they should, I don't know, give the money, give the bag up. Like, if y'all gonna do that, bring Cap back, do all the things, patch the whole thing up, and maybe people might forget about it. But I don't think it's a wrap for them.
Yeah, for sure. Like anything else, right? Just like this country, America is a institution, right? And these things are ingrained in them, right? So if you truly want to change, I mean, then the ownership gotta, I mean, die out. I mean, because these are older, rich white men, right, who have been old and rich for a very long time. So these ideals don't go away. And I mean, they die with them. So we do have to see more diverse ownership. We have to see more diverse league officials, more diverse head coaches, right? And I mean, like, it has to be a change. I mean, like,
the head coaching shit is nasty.
And that's just with anything. I mean, like, history will repeat itself unless you decide to make a drastic change, right? Because I think just like America, I mean, the league is in need of a revolution. I mean, because like, you have players and white ownership. I mean, yeah, it's America. It's mostly white. It's pro sports. Is white ownership. But I think no league looks as bad as the NFL does, right? And I mean, in the NBA, you can name, I mean, you can name, I mean, some owners of color. You can name a lot of black head coaches. You can name some black GMs. I mean, like the players have more autonomy because their identity is more popularized. I mean, because NFL players wear helmets, so you can't see it.
Their brand is the shield.
It's a little different. I mean, but with NBA, I mean, players are more free, more open, right? So it just works towards them being, I mean, a more equitable league than the NFL is. So like, things have to change. I mean, those white owners, I mean, got to sell the team. I mean, you gotta have a buying pot, like, and for things to change, the structure gotta change. And
I don't think the NFL has any white owners. I don't think they have. I mean, any black owners.
Nah, I mean, Diddy and them trying to be the first. I mean, yeah. So
I don't even think they sold it to him, and I don't even think there's only like 3 black head coaches or 2, I guess.
I mean, so it's just like, so things will be. Yeah, the black players play, but the old white guys make the rules, and
exactly.
And that's the issue of
society, basically.
Eurocentric, and I mean society as a whole, and I mean all Western world. For too long, old white guys have made the rules that work for white people. I mean, so
because the NFL is exactly reflective of what's going on. It's like they're at the power structure all the way from the owners down to the head coaches, down to the staff is like white all the way down. So, and that's also with America. It's like there's not many people in position of power from the top all the way down to the local level. So a lot of stuff has to change. And if the NFL they should be the if they become the model of that, that would be that might change people's opinion on. Like, look, we are hiring these people in this position. We're bringing black owners. We're trying to genuinely change, but they did too much, especially when they could have stopped the problem before it even started. They could have been like, "Hey, we support that. We're with that." But I'm pretty sure Adam Silver would have been like, "We're with him."
Yeah.
The reaction but the issue with the NFL, and I think this is what they really don't understand, is everything is always reactionary.
Yeah.
Getting Jay-Z, 3 years later, was like the worst PR thing they could have did in the fashion that they did it. To your point, H, had they kept him and did it anyway, it would have been like, oh, they understand. But it's so reactionary, and people can see through their moves.
Every single one of them.
Even with the Rooney Rule. Now, the Rooney Rule was supposed to be designed to it's almost like affirmative action in a way. You have to interview at least one black person within all executive positions in NFL. That's the Rooney Rule. Well, now it's getting so bad, it's almost like a joke. Oh yeah, well we interview Frank just because, or we interview H just because. Oh, now we can really go to where we want to go. And I think that, to get to this point, 2020, and to see what we're seeing in the context of what we're seeing, the climate of what we're seeing, so much is gonna shift once these verdicts come down. I think we might be headed to. From a cynical perspective, many people might not believe that we're gonna get any guilty verdicts, and whether it be Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery or even with Floyd. But I think because of how much pressure we've put on the government and the police over the last 2-3 weeks, I think we might be able to see something change. And if we do see a change on the outside, we might be able to see a change.
Because I feel like it starts from that. Like, if that verdict comes out innocent, man, and if it comes out guilty, then take those next steps to
Sorry.
It continue. That's cool. And continue to progress on that and build off of that, because what's crazy out of the response that I've seen, not just here but from like around the world, is ill. Like, I've never seen people in France come out crazy like that. I've never seen people
15,
in London.
18 other countries. Yep.
Yeah, like I've never even when the stuff happened in all that stuff happened 2014 and stuff, like it was more so like, that's y'all problem, like United States, whatever, but this time you start seeing people from all walks of life, culture, and they like, man, it's really bad. And with social media, it just amplifies it to another level. So those people in Washington probably never seen that either. They like, yo, they finding out our names, our address, they finding out our emails, they hitting us up, they calling the governor, they calling everybody, because it has to change. Like you said, it's definitely going to shift. I don't know in what direction, but hopefully, I always say the most positive direction, because it's definitely a change coming for sure.
Right.
And that affects every sector of sports, business.
Yeah, once society shifts, then everything falls.
Yeah, everything. You as a sports person, you just want to be on that other side when it happens. Like the NBA, they probably
any brand in general. Any brand.
Right.
Before we get out of here, what's one thing that y'all would say y'all took away from the last couple of days in terms of how power brands have, I wouldn't say adjusted to the climate, but have responded to the climate, whether it be positive or negative? What's some things y'all take away from how they've handled the way they've responded to what society has been doing over the last couple weeks? I was gonna start with you, Frank.
It never hurts to be on the right side of history, right? And if you are going to lend support, be concrete in that, right? So I'm a contrast what Starbucks did. Black Lives Matter, we all in this together. If you come and scream, if you come and shout BML loud, you get a free frappuccino. A lot of you all get free. I'm just like, come on. I'm like, that's not real. Now I mean, like a frap ain't helping me. Now I mean, like, yeah, everybody want free shit, cool. Now I mean, I'll take it, but like, what? This is not the thing we wanted. Now contrast Ben and Jerry. Ben and Jerry they've been on the right side of history forever. Now I mean, these are two older guys who were like really leftist, like me, further left supporters. I mean, supported Bernie in 2016. Always talk about things. I mean, and they got like a 3-page thing about dismantling white supremacy. I mean, so like I don't know who their PR or communication is, but that guy or girl need a raise. You know what I mean? Because like they paid this right. Like I'm never buying Haagen-Dazs again. It's a duck for Haagen-Dazs. You know what I mean? Because they went crazy. You know what I mean? Like they wrote stuff really. You know what I mean? It's I mean, so that's how you. I mean, and everybody and they of course did an exception, right? Because they've always been that way for the last 4 or 5 years. They've been that way. But yeah, you got to call out things how they are. I mean, you can't say we are in it together because we're not. And I mean, because when y'all leave, if the cops come, they're gonna arrest me, not y'all. So you have to be really concrete. And I mean, in support. And I mean, like I understand that these lives are the ones I mean are vulnerable. And I mean, and say that, right? So I don't know that some companies played it okay. I mean, some got some really weak stuff. Some companies ain't hit nothing at all. Target, I mean, was cool. They could do like I mean. Our things can be rebought. It's fine. I mean, they came out, that was cool, you know. So I think some companies have played this okay for the most part. Ben and Jerry played it really well. Target played it cool. Starbucks was trash. I mean, so it's just like if you're gonna come out, really come out. And I mean, like ain't something that's halfway crooked. I mean, you gotta be with it or not. So I think that's what we've learned in the midst of all this.
Yeah, because for me, in terms of the surface level, they all doing well, Ben and Jerry's was ill. Like when I seen that, I was like, okay, maybe I might buy those dunks next time when they drop. But I feel like it starts with internal. Like, you know, for me, like a brand like Nike, right? Like they come out with this video and they, you know, this whole thing that's just don't do it and all of this. But I was reading about a black executive at Jordan Brand. And he's like, y'all have to tiptoe, a creative, not an executive. He's like, y'all have to tiptoe my ideas around these people because they don't understand where I'm coming from when I present these ideas of, you know, getting the hood involved in our promotion and things like that. So I feel like it starts from there. If you're going to say that you're with us and you down for the cause, you got to start hiring black executives. You have to start putting black executives in position of power, not just because it's the cool thing to do right now. It's because this person is actually the best person. A lot of the times, black people got the most swag for that job. Like, you're going to put somebody else in there because they're safe or whatever the case is. So for me, a lot of these brands, when they start hiring black executives and people of color into positions, then I'll say, okay, they did a great job. But for now, you just putting out a statement. That's cool. Like, people are going to look at it and say, okay, Ben and Jerry's, they with us, but they not really with us until they start hiring and putting people in CEO positions and things like that.
The worst thing you can get right now is a this you. If you here with a this you right now,
this you be like 2 years ago, you know, you was saying these crazy. So, to me, none of it's been genuine until they do it internally, until they hire people that really are the best people for the job, especially like NFL and like how a former player can't become a coach. That's wild to me. Like they probably know the game better than anybody else, you know? Right. I feel like with executives in different places, how they can't be the CEO. They've been at this job for 25 years. All of a sudden, because Target, a lot of it is because they employ black people. So they understand like what's going on. But until I see a black Target CEO, I'm like, okay, you're just doing it for your workers. You know, you're not really changing anything that's going on. You know? And people that call the shots. That's my opinion. That's what I want to see more of, man, because it's a lot of dope people out here that should be the executive and they're not. And just because they're black or they're not safe for their company or their brand, but they usually have the best ideas.
Now, you being so closely involved in like art and music, how do you think the music industry, or from your vantage point, how do you think the music industry is responding to what's happening? I know there's been a shift internally in terms of how the business structure is. Independents have taken more control of just their art and how it's to be monetized. But just from a societal standpoint, in support of this cause and just really shifting the culture overall? How do you think the music industry has responded?
The music industry, for me, they haven't done enough. Like back then, the artists, like they made some of their great songs during times like this, you know, and even when the pandemic started, I'm like, y'all just catching up to what independent artists been doing for the last 10 years, I guess. Now they want to film videos at home. Now they want to set up the studio out now. So I feel like they always late to the party. Like, put your artists at the forefront and put the artists that are really saying something at the forefront in order to, because there's a lot of artists that they promote that's not saying anything right now. They just silent because their brand and they've been investing in these people that don't really speak to the people that are being affected. They just spew more nonsense. So I feel like the music industry, they haven't done a great job at all doing anything. They just don't adjust that fast. Like, everything has to come to them. Like, even with the streaming and the Spotify, they were late on that. They were late on the MP3s. They were late on independent artists. They were late on. So now is the opportunity where they could come to the forefront and say and do important things, especially because their artists speak to so many people. So invest in those artists that are actually saying something and actually addressing the topics, and they'll probably be back at the forefront, you know? But it's some artists that have been doing great things, though, that I have seen. So I'm not saying the whole music industry, but I'm talking about on the executive level and on the top level. Like, they're chilling, you know. They're like, whatever, you know. Let the artist handle it. That's their stuff.
Now you just recently released a song called "Right Now," and
Yeah,
"Right Now" is a song definitely imploring not just artists but us in general to really stand up and lend our voice and our actions to change. Where can they find not just that song but your work and everything in general?
well, everything is on MasterclassNYC.com. Everything is under Masterclass NYC. So if you go on Spotify, it's Masterclass NYC everywhere. But right now, I put it out on SoundCloud just to get it out to the people so fast. Like, I recorded that song the same day, and as soon as I was done mixing it, I just threw it on Spotify. I mean, on SoundCloud so that people could hear it, because usually it takes like 4 weeks to even get it on streaming services. But things like that, I feel like if you feel like making songs and things like that and throwing it out there, then I feel like that's a great thing to do. Lend your voice to that and things like that.
Definitely. Where can they find you at on your socials?
Oh, the flyest ever, Masterclass NYC, Instagram, Masterclass NYC, Twitter, the flyest ever _. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at in Instagram and Twitter, between back and forth. You know, we active on those things.
Most definitely. Frank, where can everybody find you at?
Yo, Frank, man, I gotta find you in real life, B.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, I actually, I'm gonna say this first. Everything is streamlined now. So Enoch is Enoch everywhere now, right? So ENOCHISENOCH. Hernan, I think we actually been at 2 things together. You was at the Nas show.
Yeah.
I was there too. And I mean, like, I think I ended up being the front and the end, and I may have seen you in the beginning. I mean, I think I did.
You know, it was crazy. I seen your video. I'm like, where was Frank at? Because I was in the front, man. I'm always in the front on everything.
That night happened so crazy. I mean, because it's somebody who I know kind of connected, and Nas shouldn't have performed. It's supposed to be Dave East performing. Because then Dave East got caught with the Wu-Tang show, so Nas said, "F it, I'm performing." It was so crazy. So it ended up being a really cool night. And I mean, it worked out really well. And the week before, I saw the Illmatic.
OD rocking.
I mean, so it was dope. It was really cool. It was a cool night.
Good stuff. So we need to have these congregations a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with it.
For sure. I seen y'all conversation before, and I was like, man, I need parts. I was like, I need parts, man.
Thank you for tapping in and really giving us a different perspective, especially from a creative and artistic and branding side. So much is changing right now. We spoke about it throughout, just the shift and how everything is really being pushed to the forefront. Things that have been swept under the rug are being pulled up, and anybody that's not on the right side of history right now is getting called out. So Thank you for giving
That's
us.
another thing. Not to. Even though we wrapping up, but a lot of these people got to hold these marketing people accountable too, because they shape what we see on an everyday basis. So that's a big part too of what's going on, like the marketing and all this stuff. So hold those people accountable too, not just the politicians, not just the president, not just people like the marketing people and all. They
Well,
shape a lot of what we see.
I will say this though, before we get out of here, that's why social media is so important, because
Right.
for the most, even prior to this, going back to the beginning of the time, let's say modern era, like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. You go to TV
Right.
or a certain platform, that was be all end all. But now everything being curated on the news or in a particular perspective. Frank, you mentioned it the other day. It usually is lended towards a certain agenda, whereas
Right.
social
Right.
media is the truth. You're gonna go to social media and you're gonna see it in real time right now, and nothing can. While it might be passed through the blender in a certain way and come out a certain way for the mainstream, from a social media perspective, you can't cut it. It's all raw. It's right there. So we're gonna see, and I think that's why this particular moment with George Floyd is so big, because social media is what drove this. Social media,
Yeah.
social media got the video out, and you couldn't deny it. You couldn't spin it. You couldn't think about ways to make it cleaner. You couldn't chop it. Whatever came out in the mainstream, we already saw it. Whatever you try to spin it with a PR or from a word perspective, from the department, nah, it's
Mm-hmm.
right here.
That's why I was so hyped when I seen his PR trending on Twitter. I was like, yeah, get him, because y'all know what the PR spin is now. So
Right.
people are really smartening up too, and seeing that it's not just the politicians, but also what's behind that curtain and everything like that. People are starting to see what's behind the curtain with social media and things like that.
Definitely. So we gotta keep the pressure on. We gotta keep putting out great
Yeah,
content like this and having a conversation. So once we put it out there, it'll make people think.
for
So
sure. That's all I want to see is people having that conversation and action and doing that action too.
thank you, man. This is the
Yeah.
GrAE area. I'm Isaiah Rose. You can find me on Ask Isaiah on Twitter and Instagram. Ask Isaiah YouTube channel. This is the GrAE area. Thank you, HG, for tapping in. Shout out
Yo,
to
anytime, bro.
Masterclass NYC and everybody over there. Frank, we'll be back at it once again, my brother. Thank you.
Thank
Yo,
y'all.
Frank.
Yeah.
Peace.
I'm gonna see you for sure.